Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story that sounds like it's straight out of a Hollywood movie. It's a tale of phantom companies, a fugitive mastermind, and an absolutely mind-boggling amount of money that just vanished.
It all boils down to this one number, $2.5 billion. Just let that sink in for a second. That's a 9-0 figure, a number so huge it's almost impossible to picture.
And look, this wasn't some flashy bank robbery. This was a slow, systematic bleeding of public money, siphoned directly from Iraq's tax authority. We're talking about funds meant for the Iraqi people, drained away in just 1 year. It's no wonder they're calling it the heist of the century.
So, the big question is, how on earth does $2.5 billion just disappear from the state's bank account? And maybe more importantly, who's the person at the center of it all?
Well, that brings us to the guy at the very center of this storm, an Iraqi businessman by the name of Noor Zuhair.
Now, Noor Zuhair isn't just some random guy. He was a well-connected insider. In fact, he used to be an advisor to Iraq's own Parliamentary Finance Committee. Yeah, you heard that right. He's the man accused of being the mastermind, and right now, he's a convicted fugitive with a 10-year prison sentence waiting for him.
So how did this whole thing actually work? You know, the mechanics of the heist are, in a weird way, both incredibly brilliant and shockingly simple. Let's break it down.
Okay, so the key here was the target. The thieves didn't just grab any old government money. Nope, they went after a very specific pot of gold called tax guarantees. Think of it like this. It's a huge pile of cash held by the government for massive international oil companies. We're talking giants like Lukoil and CPEC. It was basically a giant pool of forgotten money just sitting there.
To make this super simple, just imagine you walk into the tax office and claim a huge refund from a company you never ever worked for. Now imagine they actually give it to you, and then imagine you do that again and again, 247 times. That's pretty much what happened here.
The whole scheme boils down to 4 basic steps. First, you create a bunch of fake or phantom companies right before you start. Step 2, you have corrupt officials on the inside issue 247 fraudulent checks to your new companies. 3, those companies then claim tax refunds on money they never actually deposited. And here's the kicker. Step 4. This is the most unbelievable part. They cash the checks at a bank branch located inside the tax commission building. The crime was literally happening inside the victim's own house.
So, at the very core of this whole operation, you've got these 5 key shell companies. These were the corporate tools used to pull off the entire crime.
And these companies were something else. One, Al-Mubdion, was directly run by Noor Zuhair himself. Another was bizarrely named Al-Hut al-Haddab, which translates to the hunchback whale. But the most glaring red flag has to be Real Baghdad Co. Get this. It was registered with about $750 in capital, but its 21-year-old owner somehow managed to withdraw nearly $500 million.
I mean, just look at the numbers for that one company. On one side, you have a tiny investment of $750. On the other, a payout of $500 million. A difference like that isn't just a red flag, it's a screaming 5-alarm fire of fraud. It's absolutely insane. So, once the lid was finally blown on this whole thing, the story takes a sharp turn. It stops being just a financial crime and turns into a full-blown international manhunt. In October 2022, they actually caught him on a private jet, about to skip town. But then, just a month later, he's out on bail. He'd returned a tiny fraction of the money and promised more. Then fast forward to his trial date in August 2024, and he's in no show. By November, he's sentenced without even being there, and today, he's still a fugitive, apparently living in the UAE.
So, why didn't he show up for trial? Well, the official story he gave was a pretty dramatic one. A severe car accident. The question is, was it real or just a really convenient excuse?
Yeah. Right before he was supposed to be in that courtroom, word comes out that Zuhair was in this horrible car wreck in Lebanon. But, the timing was just a little too perfect. And a lot of people back in Iraq, officials, the media, they immediately started asking if the whole thing was just a sham to help him dodge the trial.
But here's where the story takes another twist. Noor Zuhair isn't just hiding in the shadows. From wherever he is, he decided to go on the offensive and fight back in the court of public opinion.
In August of 2024, while he was on the run, Zuhair did something pretty bold.
He sat down for a televised interview from some secret location and decided to tell his side of the story to the world.
And he did not hold back. He basically said, this was all legal. The money I took was just the profit of my companies. And then he turned the tables, threatening to expose other powerful officials who he claims are also corrupt.
So what you're left with are two completely different realities. On one hand, the Iraqi government says this was a massive, open and shut case of theft using shell companies. But on the other hand, Zuhair claims he was just running a legitimate business called check discounting, where he would buy checks from oil companies for a little less than their face value.
And that brings us to where we are right now. Here are the hard facts. $2.5 billion is gone. A very small piece of it has been recovered. Noor Zuhair has been convicted and sentenced, but he's still a free man. And yes, Interpol has officially put out a notice for his arrest. The whole affair is a pretty stark reminder of just how hard it is to fight corruption at this level.
Which really just leaves us with this one big, lingering question. Is Noor Zuhair a criminal mastermind who pulled off one of the biggest heists in modern history? Is he just a convenient scapegoat for a much bigger, more powerful network of corruption? Or is the truth somewhere in the middle? That's the real mystery at the heart of Iraq's stolen billion.